Welcome to the TPC Desktop Getting Started video series. In this video, we're going to take a look at entering field data, or data from a total station. Now, Traverse PC is just as comfortable working with GPS and geodetics, but we're going to concentrate our focus on just entering data from a total station in this video. So let's go ahead and open the survey that we've been working in this video series, 2015-117. We've already entered our deed data, and we started at coordinates 10,000, 10,000 to do that. And now we want to add a traverse for our field data. We could just as easily have imported this from a data collector, but let's enter it manually so we can see how that works. So like I did before, I'm going to double-click any blank line in the Traverse Manager to add a traverse. I'm going to call this one field data. And just like I did before, I'm going to choose my Traverse View format and drawing settings before I open the Traverse. Just easier to do it this way. So I'm going to choose Control 3D, and I'm going to choose Control Loops. And I've just learned that these are the formats that I like to use, or I've modified to use. And Traverse PC opens a traverse for me for that field data traverse. Again, we're working in grid bearings, grid distance, and feet, and it's formatted that view based on that traverse view format that I selected. Now I want to start this traverse by recalling the points I occupied and backsighted, and I used the existing monuments that were out there. So in my field notes, I said I set up over point 2, so I simply type 2 and press enter. Traverse PC looked through the survey database for this survey and said 2 already exists, and gives me the option to simply recall the existing point and its coordinates. So by simply pressing the enter key twice, I recall point 2. Now I want to recall point 1 as my backsight, so same thing, 1, enter, enter, and then I'm going to start with point 100 for my first shot. Now I want to explain real quickly why Traverse PC brought in the second point as the backsight, which is exactly what I wanted it to do, but I want you to see why. Let's go back to our Traverse View format and our Format tab, and I told Traverse PC that when I enter an occupied point in the Traverse View, I want you to first follow it with a backsight, then follow it with a foresight. That's something we call the occupied point sequence. So what do I want to follow an occupied point? Well, that's exactly what Traverse PC did. I recalled 2 to occupy it, followed it with a backsight, and then a foresight to the next point, point 100. So it's the occupied point sequence that determines how the points get typed when I recall them in a traverse. Let's go ahead and OK that and come back and take a look at our Traverse View. Now I set up this Traverse View for 3D. In other words, I've got a slope distance, zenith angle, instrument height, and target height. So I want to carry elevations. I've just chosen to do that on this survey. I could just as easily have done a 2D format and worked with horizontal distance, no zenith angle, and no instrument height or target height. So let's come in and put our instrument height and target height in out of our field book. So we set up on that point at 5 feet. We backsighted our target. Doesn't really matter. We backsighted this point. We don't care what the target height was on that, or we can enter it as whatever it was. I'm going to put in 6. Okay, we're really just pulling the angle out of that because it's an inversed backsight. And then we come down to point 100, and basically we're going to reuse that target height or enter a target height here, and Traverse PC is going to carry that forward for us. So let's get point 100 ready. We want to start with 100 as a point label. I'm going to press F10 to make it a side shot because I'm going to include a couple of side shots here. And that F10 comes out of Edit, Point Type, Side Shot. So I just use the hotkey for that. And I tend to do that quite a bit. Just use the hotkey for a side shot or Control F10 to take it back to an occupied point. Pretty simple to do. And let's go ahead and enter our data for that then. So to this point, we did a slope distance, and I'm just reading out of a field book here, of 100. I had a zenith angle of 89.30, so I just type 89.3. I don't need to enter the rest of the minute part or the seconds. And then I put in my horizontal angle, and I'm just keeping these real simple, 30. Here's my target height of 6, and I'm going to enter over to the description and type BC for building corner. Now, I went over to the description because that was part of my edit sequence. So again, if I go back to that traverse view format, I see my edit sequence includes the description here, and then instrument height in case I'm occupying the next point. So traverse BC just went through each of these letters as I pressed the enter key. And when I got done with that point and entered all the data I had told it I wanted, traverse BC added a point, incremented the point label to 101, and put me back in the slope distance ready for the next point. So really great way to just enter data. I can put my head down with my field book and just start typing numbers. So my distance is 120. This time I had a zenith angle of 89, 50, 30. I've got a horizontal angle, keeping it simple again, of 40. Traverse BC copied down my target height. If I told it to, I could also have it copy my description down, so I wouldn't have to enter BC each time. That's just, again, a setting in the format dialog. And I'm going to tell it now that I want to go to the next point. I don't want this to be a side shot now. I want it to be the next control point I'm going to occupy. So I'm going to type in whatever point label I want to use. And one of the things I often do is that I often just type in one I know exists. And Traverse BC gives me the option to use the next available point number, so I don't have any gaps in there. Traverse BC doesn't care if you have any of those gaps. It just allows me to make sure I haven't forgotten a point along the way, and it's just a real easy way to do it. Now I'm going to do the Control F10 to turn off the side shot, but I could have gone through the menu. And then let's just put in the information to our next control point. So this is going to be a 90.05. I'm going to go 50 degrees. Again, my target height is 6, and for my description, I'm going to say hub and nail. And I can see in my drawing that Traverse BC has drawn the 2 points for me, and then it's advanced to my next control point so I can finish picking up whatever information I needed to pick up for this survey. Now, we could spend a lot of time in this video talking about different ways to enter field data from a total station, but I want to stop here and just highlight the fact that we started with a control point, we brought in an existing backsight, we entered both side shots and control points. We entered the side shots first and our control point next because now we're ready to go up and occupy point 6, to backsight point 2 or specify a different backsight, and continuing entering side shots and control points. And I want to just mention real quick that Traverse BC has sort of mixed side shots and control points like this since we started in 1987. And it's been something we've really enjoyed having in the traverses because I can really just enter whatever data I have, and I can then choose, if I want to come back and occupy one of those side shots if I set a hub and nail there. I can double angles to that, so I've got a little bit tighter control over it. I can set up my control loop so I can see my control points and my side shots as I go. And of course, again, Traverse BC is drawing all of that for me in the drawing view, so I can make sure that my shots are going west of the property corner and not east, meaning I had a wrong backsight in there. So it's just a great way for me to interact with my data and make sure that I'm getting exactly what I expect.